You've tried to change, really tried. Not half-heartedly, not lazily, with full intention. You've repeated the affirmations, said the words in the mirror, written the goals down, visualized the life you want, and somewhere, deep inside, you waited, hoped, believed that this time, something would actually stick, and for a moment, it felt like it was working. You felt different, lighter, more certain. And then, within days, sometimes hours, the old feeling came back. The same heaviness, the same doubt, the same version of yourself, quietly reclaiming its place, as if nothing had changed. And you were left wondering, what am I doing wrong? Here is the answer. Not a soft answer, not a comforting one, the real one. You were working at the wrong level. Everything you tried, the affirmations, the repetition, the positive thinking, was happening at the surface, at the conscious level. But the part of you that needs to change, the part that is actually running your life, lives much deeper than that. It lives in your subconscious. And your subconscious does not respond to words. Read that again. Your subconscious does not respond to words. It doesn't matter how many times you say, I am confident, I am abundant, I am worthy. If the feeling underneath those words doesn't match, your subconscious ignores them completely, not partially, completely. Because the subconscious mind is not a language-based system. It is a feeling-based system. It was built through experience, through sensation, through the emotional weight of moments that happened to you long before you had the vocabulary to describe them. Think about how your current beliefs were formed. Nobody sat you down and explained them to you. Nobody handed you a document that said, here is what you are worth. Here is what is possible for you. Here is the kind of person you are. They were formed through experience, through repeated moments that carried emotional weight that your nervous system absorbed and turned into permanent conclusions. A moment of rejection, felt deeply enough, became a belief about your worth. A moment of failure, felt intensely enough, became a belief about your capability. A moment of abandonment, experienced young enough, became a belief about whether you are lovable. None of those beliefs were installed through words. They were installed through feeling, through the body, through the nervous system. And this is exactly why trying to change them through words alone never works. You are trying to speak a language your subconscious doesn't use. Now here is where this gets important. If the subconscious was built through feeling, then it can only be rebuilt through feeling, not through thinking differently, not through saying different things. Through feeling differently, consistently, deeply, until the new feeling becomes more familiar than the old one. This is the actual mechanism of reprogramming, not repetition of words, repetition of feeling. And there is a difference, a profound difference, between those two things. Repeating a word is a mental act. Feeling a belief is a nervous system event. One happens in your head, the other happens in your body. And your subconscious lives in your body, not in your thoughts. This is why you can think positively all day and still feel anxious, still feel unworthy, still feel like something is missing. Because the thought and the feeling are two different things operating at two different levels. And real reprogramming only happens when both levels align. When the thought and the felt experience of that thought become the same thing. When you don't just think, I am enough, but you feel it in your chest, in your posture, in the way your nervous system relaxes into that truth instead of resisting it. That moment, when a new belief stops feeling like a thought and starts feeling like a fact, is the moment reprogramming has actually happened, not before. Now, there is something else, something that almost nobody talks about. Your subconscious is not equally open at all times of the day. There are specific windows, specific states, where the wall between your conscious mind and your subconscious becomes thin, where new information, new feeling, new identity can pass through without resistance. And the two most powerful windows happen every single day. The first is the moment just before you fall asleep. That state where you are no longer fully awake, but not yet fully asleep, is called the hypnagogic state. In this state, your critical mind, the part that filters, judges, and rejects new beliefs, begins to switch off, and your subconscious becomes directly accessible. Whatever feeling you carry into that state, whatever identity you hold in that threshold moment, goes directly into the subconscious without the usual resistance, without the filter saying, "That's not really true. You don't actually deserve that. Who do you think you are?" In that window, the subconscious simply receives, and the second window is the moment just after you wake up. Before you reach for your phone, before the noise of the day begins, before your conscious mind fully activates and starts running its usual programs. In those first few minutes of waking, you are still partially in the subconscious state. Still permeable, still open. And what you feed your mind, what you feel, what identity you choose in those first quiet minutes sets the emotional tone for everything that follows. Most people waste both of these windows. They fall asleep scrolling, feeding anxiety and comparison directly into their most receptive state. They wake up and immediately reach for their phone, flooding their open subconscious with noise before it has had a chance to receive anything intentional. And then they wonder why nothing changes. The windows were open. Every single night, every single morning, but nothing was placed inside them. Nothing intentional, nothing chosen. Just the same old noise, reinforcing the same old identity, day after day, year after year. This is not a small thing. This is the difference between a life that transforms and a life that endlessly repeats itself. The access point was always there. It was never hidden. It was never complicated. It was simply never used. And starting from this moment, that changes. Not with effort, not with force, with understanding. With the quiet awareness that you now know something most people will never know. That the door to your subconscious opens twice a day. And from now on, you will be standing at that door with intention, with a feeling chosen deliberately, with an identity held consciously, with a new truth ready to be received. So now you understand something crucial. That reprogramming is not a mental exercise. It is a feeling event, and the windows to your subconscious open every single day. But understanding this is still not enough, because here is the question that matters now. What exactly do you place inside those windows? What do you feel? What do you return to? And this is where most people, even the ones who know about the sleep state, even the ones who understand the subconscious, still get it wrong. They try to feel something they don't believe yet. They try to force a feeling that their nervous system immediately rejects. They close their eyes and try to feel abundant while their body is holding years of lack. They try to feel confident while their nervous system is wired for smallness. They try to feel loved while everything inside them is braced for rejection, and it doesn't work. Not because the method is wrong, because the approach is wrong. You cannot force the subconscious to feel something. Force creates resistance, and resistance locks the old pattern deeper in place. So what is the alternative? The alternative is not force, it is return. There is a difference between those two words that changes everything. Force says, I need to feel something I don't feel yet. Return says, I am coming back to something that is already true, and that distinction is the entire foundation of real subconscious reprogramming. Here is what this means in practice. Somewhere inside you, beneath all the layers of doubt, beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the stories that were placed on top of you, there is a version of you that already knows its worth. Not a future version, not a hoped-for version, a present one. The part of you that knows without needing to be told that you are capable of more. The part that recognizes truth when it hears it. The part that responds when something real is spoken with a quiet yes. That part already exists. It has always existed. It was not destroyed by your conditioning. It was buried by it. And reprogramming, real reprogramming, is not about creating something new. It is about returning to what was always there, clearing the layers, removing the noise. Coming back to the felt truth that was present before the world told you otherwise. This is why return works where force doesn't, because you are not trying to convince your nervous system of something foreign. You are reminding it of something familiar, something deeper than the conditioning, something older than the doubt, and the nervous system responds to that differently, not with resistance, with recognition, a quiet settling, a softening, the feeling of something clicking back into place. That sensation is not imagination. That is your nervous system beginning to reorganize around a truer signal. Now let's talk about what this actually looks like, in the body, in real experience, because reprogramming is not abstract, it is physical. Your subconscious communicates through the body, through sensation, through the felt texture of your inner experience. When an old belief is active, you feel it somewhere, tightness in the chest, heaviness in the stomach, tension in the shoulders, a subtle bracing, as if the body is preparing for something bad to happen. That physical sensation is the subconscious belief, expressing itself through the nervous system. And when a new belief begins to take root, you feel that too. An opening in the chest, a softening in the breath, a quiet steadiness that wasn't there before. Not excitement, not a rush, something calmer than that, something more certain. A feeling that says, without words, this is true. That physical shift is not a sign that you are pretending. It is a sign that something real is beginning to move, and the practice is to return to that physical feeling as often as possible, especially in the two windows, before sleep, after waking. Not by thinking about it, by feeling it in the body. Locating it, breathing into it, letting it expand quietly without forcing it to be bigger than it is. Even a small, genuine feeling is worth more than an hour of forced positivity, because the subconscious doesn't measure volume, it measures authenticity. A whisper of real felt truth reaches deeper than a shout of hollow affirmation. This is the part that requires patience. Real patience. Not the kind that waits for results. The kind that trusts the process without needing immediate proof. Because the subconscious does not change overnight, it changes through accumulation, through the slow, steady layering of a new felt experience over the old one. Think of it like this. Your current beliefs were not installed in a single moment. They were built through repetition, through experience after experience that carried the same emotional signature until that signature became the default. The new belief requires the same process. Not years of suffering, but consistent returning. Day after day, window after window, one genuine felt moment after another, until the new feeling becomes more familiar than the old one, until your nervous system stops treating it as foreign and starts treating it as home. And here is what happens when that shift occurs. Your behavior changes without you forcing it to. Your decisions change without you analyzing them. Your responses change without you rehearsing them, because behavior is downstream of belief. Always. You don't change your actions first and then change your identity. You change your identity first, and your actions follow, naturally, automatically, without effort. This is why people who have genuinely reprogrammed don't talk about how hard they work at it. They talk about how natural it feels, how the old patterns just stopped being relevant. How the things that used to trigger them no longer reach the same depth, not because they fought those patterns, because they outgrew them, because the new felt identity became so familiar so established in the nervous system that the old ones simply had nowhere left to live. Now there is one more layer here, one that is rarely spoken about. Your environment is constantly reprogramming you, whether you are aware of it or not, whether you want it to or not. Every conversation you have, every piece of content you consume, every environment you spend time in, every person whose energy you absorb is sending signals directly to your subconscious about who you are and what is normal for you. And if those signals are constantly reinforcing the old identity, then the work you do in your two windows is fighting against everything else for the other 23 hours of your day. This is why reprogramming in isolation, without changing your environment, is so slow and so exhausting. You are pouring clean water into a container that has 1,000 small holes. The water goes in, but it leaks out faster than you can fill it. This doesn't mean you need to abandon your life. It means you need to become more intentional about what you allow to reach you, what you watch, what you listen to, what conversations you participate in, what energy you allow to stay close. Not from fear, not from avoidance, from the clear understanding that your subconscious is absorbing everything, and you are the one who decides what it absorbs. That responsibility is not a burden, it is power, the power to curate your own programming. Consciously, deliberately, for the first time in your life, you have arrived at the part that most people never reach. Not because it is hidden, not because it is complicated, because most people stop at understanding. They learn the concept, they feel the insight, they leave inspired, and then return to the same life. And the reason is not laziness. The reason is this: they never made the decision. Not a decision to try, not a decision to see if it works, not a conditional decision that depends on results showing up first, a real decision, unconditional, settled, made at the level of identity, not at the level of strategy. And this is where everything either comes together or falls apart. Because reprogramming without a decision is like renovating a house without deciding to live in it. You can do the work. You can change the walls, repaint everything, build something new. But if you haven't decided that this is your home now, you will keep one foot outside, always half in, always slightly uncommitted, always leaving a door open for the old version to walk back through. And the subconscious feels that hesitation. It doesn't respond to half decisions, it responds to certainty, to the felt sense that this is not something you are trying, but something you are. So before anything else, before the practice, before the windows, before the returning, there has to be a decision. A quiet one. Not dramatic. Not announced. Just a moment where you sit with yourself and something inside you says, I am no longer negotiating with the old version of me. Not in anger. Not in desperation. In clarity. The clarity that comes when you have finally understood what has been happening and why, and you simply choose differently. That decision changes the quality of everything that follows. The practice becomes different. The returning feels different. The windows carry a different weight when you are using them, not to try to become someone, but to reinforce who you have already decided to be. This is the shift, from hoping to knowing, from trying to being, from reaching to arriving. And it starts not in a month, not after results appear, but now, in this moment, with a decision made at the deepest level of your awareness. Now let's talk about the actual practice. In full, what it looks like, what it feels like, how it works, in the real, ordinary moments of your life. The morning window opens, the moment you wake up, before your eyes fully adjust, before thought rushes in, before the weight of the day lands on your chest. In that first moment, there is a gap, a quiet space between sleep and waking, where you are still soft, still open, still permeable, and in that gap, before anything else, you return. Not to a thought, to a feeling, the feeling of who you have decided to be, not forced, not performed, just located, like finding a frequency on a radio. You don't force the signal, you tune toward it, you adjust until the static clears and something clean comes through. That feeling, however subtle it is, however small it begins, is real. It is your nervous system touching the new identity before the day has had a chance to pull you back into the old one. Stay there. For 2 minutes, for 5, for however long feels natural. Not analyzing it, not questioning it, just resting in it, breathing into it, letting it settle into the body before you move. This is not meditation in the traditional sense. This is identity anchoring. You are anchoring the new version of yourself as the first experience of the day. Before the noise, before the demands, before the world has a chance to remind you of who you used to be, and then you move into your day, not perfectly, not with every moment controlled. You live, you respond, you face what comes, but now there is something different underneath it. A quiet anchor, a felt reference point that you can return to in any moment when the old pull arrives. And the old pull will arrive. Not because you are failing, because you are human, because the old wiring runs deep and it doesn't disappear after one morning session. But now, when it arrives, you know what to do. You don't fight it. You don't collapse into it. You notice it. With the calm certainty of someone who knows that an old recording playing is not the same thing as the truth. You observe it. You let it pass, and you return quietly to the feeling you anchored in the morning. That act of returning is not weakness. That is the practice. Every time you return, the neural pathway deepens. Every time you choose the new feeling over the old pull loses a fraction of its power. Not all at once, fraction by fraction, day by day. Until one morning, you wake up, and the returning feels effortless, not because you forced it there, because it became home, and then, at night, the second window opens as the day releases. As the body begins to slow, as the mind starts to drift toward the threshold of sleep, this is where most people hand their subconscious to whatever was on their screen last, whatever anxiety they scrolled through, whatever comparison they absorbed, whatever noise was loudest in the final hour before sleep, and all of it goes directly in, unfiltered, into the most receptive state the subconscious ever enters. You are going to do something different. In those final minutes, before sleep takes you, you return again. To the same feeling, the same identity, the same quiet certainty of who you are, not rehearsing it, not analyzing it, resting in it, like settling into something warm, like coming home after a long day, and finally putting everything down. You carry that feeling into sleep, and while you sleep, your subconscious continues to work, continues to process, continues to consolidate whatever was most present in the moments before you went under. If that was anxiety, it consolidates anxiety. If that was the new identity, it consolidates the new identity. You are the one who chooses every night without exception. This is the practice. Morning and night. Simple, consistent, unglamorous. No special equipment, no complicated techniques, no hours of forced visualization. Just 2 daily returns to the felt truth of who you have decided to be, and over time, something begins to happen that cannot be fully explained, only experienced. The world around you starts to shift, not because you forced it, not because you chased it, because you changed at the level where change is real and the world has no choice but to reflect it. Opportunities begin to appear that didn't seem to exist before. Conversations carry a different quality. People respond to you differently. Doors open that were always there but never felt available to the version of you that used to stand in front of them. This is not magic. This is the most natural thing in the world. When the signal changes, the reception changes. When the identity changes, the reality reorganizes around the new one, always without exception. And you, standing in the quiet certainty of who you have decided to be, will not be surprised by this, because you will know exactly why it is happening. Not because life suddenly became easier, because you finally stopped fighting yourself, stopped trying to build a new life on top of an old identity, and instead did the one thing that changes everything. You went to the source. You touched the foundation. You rebuilt it, not with force, not with hustle, not with the desperate energy of someone trying to escape who they are, but with the calm, certain, unhurried energy of someone who has already arrived, who already knows, who already is. The reprogramming is not something that happens to you. It is something you return to every morning, every night, in every quiet moment, between the noise until the new frequency is no longer new, until it is simply who you are. And that person, the one standing in that frequency, fully, without apology, without hesitation, without one foot still in the past, that person does not struggle to create the life they want. They simply live it because they became it first.